every city in India has a gender energy, something like.
Okay.
So Delhi is very macho.
Yes.
Gurgaon is like a drunk man with an empty gun, but he doesn't know it's an empty, and we also don't know it's an empty gun. But he's stumbling.
Gun.
Yeah, he's just stumbling on the road, just waving the gun at everyone and all. Like Bombay.
So Bombay is a transgender, is a trans woman.
Yes.
Oh my
Bombay
God, really? It's true. Oh my God.
Bombay is a trans woman.
Welcome to the Best Parts, the show where we get into the heads of the characters we love by speaking with the people who brought them to life. And today we have Varun Grover. I'm so excited. Everyone belongs to this city, whether you came 500 years ago or you came last week. And, Bombay lures in the ambitious, the industrious, the optimistic, the desperate, the greedy, the hungry. Sacred Games, it captured the very, very many voices of Bombay, like very few films or shows have. And, for me, one stood out. Not just for me, I think for everyone I spoke to.
बोल बेबी
मेरे साथ चल
कहाँ लेके जाएगा
जन्नत
जन्नत तो मैं हूँ जिसको जन्नत देखनी होती है ना वो मेरे पास आते हैं
To me, Kukoo was more than a kingmaker. She was, for me, the embodiment of the city. She was Bombay. In season 1, right until the very end, you don't really see who she is as a human being. We only see how she is regarded. We see her from the eyes of other people. So I like to call it the Gaitonde gaze. Do we look at Kukoo as the idea of aspiration, or, she's objectified as a symbol of success?
Okay, so multiple questions in there, I think. One is about the idea of Bombay being this mysterious, difficult to categorize kind of a city.
Yeah.
A city that, again, going with, if Kukoo is a metaphor for the city, then I would say a non-binary city.
Of course.
A city that has as much macho energy as feminine energy, as much love as rage, and all of these things somehow combined into Kukoo, the character which came from the source material, but in the source material, Vikram Chandra's novel, Sacred Games. So Kukoo was used only once as a story being told by one constable to another while they are waiting for some, while they are staking someone out. And that kind of popped out for us, the writers in the room, me, Vasant Nath and Smita Singh. जब हमने वो पढ़ा तो हमको लगा कि ये जो कहानी सुनाई जा रही है कांस्टेबल के द्वारा दूसरे को, that has some potential to bring some another energy into this story. Yeah. Otherwise, the story is about these two guys. They are on the cover of the novel also. They are on the cover of the Netflix poster also. Sartaj Singh and Gaitonde, and both are men on the spectrum. I would say both are not super macho men. Yeah. They are, there's a spectrum, but still both have this angry energy and, unresolved issues
male.
about. Yeah. Trying to understand this city, which gives birth to people like this, or which becomes a playground for or theatre for people like these. We wanted to understand Bombay a little more. We wanted to find characters through which we can see this city, understand this city, analyze, and also in a very subtle way, put down this city for everyone to feel that it is accessible. It's not larger than life.
Right.
What Bombay has been.
Demystify it.
Yeah. So for me especially, as an outsider who came to Bombay 20 years ago now, this is my 20th year in Bombay, and on 1st July 2024, it will be exactly 20 years I came to Bombay. And even in these 20 years, Bombay feels like a strange city for me. About Bombay, there is this image that built in my mind, and that image is from films like Diwar, is from novels like Sacred Games or Maximum City or Bombay of Manto, right
Correct.
from,
Yeah.
his writings in the 40s. And always this city felt like a beast, like those Godzilla, coming out of water
Yeah.
instead of Dimple Kapadia coming out of water. So there's that difference. For an outsider, it is always this Godzilla
But in a
mega
bikini.
city. Yeah, maybe.
I'm just trying to make it
But,
accessible.
yeah. But so there is this larger than life image that Bombay, or people who wrote about Bombay or who made Bombay this visual image, somehow, maybe knowingly, maybe unknowingly, created this image for an outsider that it's a city you will never be able to grasp, a city you will always be a dwarf in front of it. And that is something which slightly shifted when I read Sacred Games again for the TV adaptation.
Okay.
And I felt, okay, this is not the beast Bombay. This is a human Bombay. And Kukoo became a very key character to show these complications and to show that Bombay is not just Sartaj Singh or Gaitonde. Bombay is Kukoo also. Someone who actually is not even getting due respect in the society also.
Yeah.
As a society where we are today or where we were 20 years ago. And still that character can fascinate Gaitonde, can fascinate Isa, can become a lucky mascot of sorts. And also a character who is so oppressed as well as suppressed in many ways.
Yeah.
And still finding a way to leave her stamp on this city, or on the characters of this city.
For me, she is very much a symbol of whatever it is that you've just enumerated. It is really that she feels difficult to understand. That was my question. Like when you first encounter her, she's depersonalized. She's maybe that's what happens to women who are put on pedestals. Right. But it's very much you're looking up at Kukoo. You're not even sure what you're looking at, but you know it's something unknowable. You don't even know why you feel that way for her. So so that was a deliberate thing. That's what you're saying, right? And because what I liked about what I loved about Sacred Games was that it's constantly bombarding the viewer with this cognitive dissonance, right? There's wealth, there's poverty, good cop, bad cop. There are people who are beautiful on the outside and ugly on the inside, and there's the sophistication, there's the underbelly, and there's all the kind of where all these worlds meet. And so I think you just explained that this juxtaposition of Kukoo's, she has this incredible femininity, and then there's this gangster world of this extreme machismo. It's quite stark. So what kind of research were you guys doing to build the kind of nuances to her character and her relationships?
We found out about characters like Kukoo from the dance bars of Bombay. We had a research team.
Okay.
So Smita Nair was our researcher. Smita Nair used to be with Indian Express for a long time. And she's one of the most fantastic reporters I know. She took us to a lot of places. She took us to meet a lot of cops, meet a lot of people who were references for certain characters. And we built these characters, a lot of them, not just Kukoo.
Kukoo. जादू था उसमें, जिसके कुक्कू उसका बम्बई ऐसा बोलते थे। ईसा इतना बड़ा था कि उसको अपन गोली से नहीं हरा सकता था। उसको हराने के लिए कुक्कू को जीतना मांगता था।
Does she understand this? Does she see how ambitious men regard her? She seems to derive a sense of power from it. She's not scared.
So because she has grown up in that ecosystem where she understands how power works.
So she can smell Gaitonde's ambition.
Yeah.
She knows that
Yeah,
he will.
and she knows that,
She's not scared of Isa.
Yeah, also she knows that if men can play dirty, she can also play dirty, So,
But that is different. You understand what I'm saying? Like, according to my understanding, normally there is no subservience about her.
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, she's like,
exactly,
this is
exactly.
Kukoos.
Yeah, yeah.
She's
so
in charge.
so she's playing the game,
Yeah.
and she knows how to play the game, and she knows it's not even if Gaitonde doesn't become big,
Yeah, yeah.
there's a chance he will, but there's a chance he won't. Even then, this game she's playing is helping her status
Okay.
with Isa.
Right.
Right.
Oh, okay. So she's fully aware of that.
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
not.
She's fully aware, and she's playing it, and she knows how to play better than these men. Actually.
Yeah, it's a very powerful.
Yeah,
a
it's
powerful
only
thing.
when she becomes attached at a point,
yeah.
and then she,
That's Hercules' heel,
yeah,
yeah.
then she basically
Yeah, so-
becomes vulnerable after
Yeah.
a point, and that's when her kind of heartbreaking moment comes.
You can see that she's charmed by him, and it's not his power, though. So maybe, like, I'm asking you, like, it's his potential, but
It's also his.
is that what she finds attractive?
It's also
or it's just
his
charm?
rawness
Yeah.
at that point where
Yeah.
he's not corrupted by what ambition can bring you. Right now, he's
That's
just
true.
like
That's true. That's a good point.
like an ambitious kid in a way.
Yeah,
There's
there's something
certain
fresh about
innocence
him.
about
Yeah.
his ambition. He's not like, he's not complicated yet.
Yeah.
He's a simple person who is an outsider. So there's that outsider energy
Yeah.
in the initial few years when you are, whatever, hustling is the term. When you're hustling, but there's an honesty about that
Correct,
hustling.
yes,
And after
yeah.
a point, you learn the game, and then you start hustling
Your mask
for
comes on.
some ulterior motives also, and then you don't know there's any other way to life also. You
Yeah.
can't go back to that
Yeah,
that
I get it. Yeah.
innocent phase. So there's that
So that's
thing
what
also.
that's what's attractive to her. That
Yeah.
so later on when they're alone, he tells her that
तेरी आंखों में भी वही दर्द दिखता है जो परवीन की आंखों में दिखता है।
कौन सा दर्द?
वाइच तुझे देखते तो सब हैं, तो दिखते नहीं किसी को, अपन को दिखती है टोटल।
for a woman like Kukoo, that is like super dangerous, right? Because if someone can see her, they can see her vulnerability. And
Yeah.
she has until now had to be, she's like a thing rather than a person to Isa.
Yeah.
So even when Gaitonde starts throwing money at her in the bar, he's kind of marking his territory in front of Isa. She's kind of falling in love with him there, right?
Yeah.
And you get the impression that she's never allowed herself to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. So just to quickly, going back to that Parveen Babi reference.
Yeah.
So it is straight from Diwar, and it's a foreshadowing also, because in Diwar, Parveen Babi is a dancer who falls in love with a gangster,
Yeah.
Amitabh's character, and then she dies at a point by a bullet. So it's a foreshadowing of sorts, but through a filmy reference, which we tried, and because you brought it up, I suddenly remembered. No one has actually talked about it in any of the reviews of the show, but yeah, this is,
So that's what I was asking, because it's
Yeah.
grim.
yeah, it
It's
is
like you
grim,
get that,
and
you
it
get that
is-
thing in your stomach,
yeah,
like
it is
she's
straight
fucked
from
now.
Diwar, and exactly the same arc, almost same arc, where she also, resists falling in
Yeah,
love with
yeah,
him
because she
in
knows
the
what it's
film, and
gonna do
then
to
at
her.
some point she does, and then she's killed.
When someone catches her, she's in the loo and that guy sees her peeing, standing up and everything. And, at that time she's not phased at all because...
Yeah.
But that's her bravado, right? That's
Yeah.
Kukoos. She's not... She's pretending most of the time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, also the kind of world she's living in is actually far less judgmental than our middle class
Yeah.
world. So she knows how to deal with it.
Okay.
One. Two, probably she has gotten far less judgment in that world,
Right.
where she can then be herself and be like, okay, fuck it. I don't care if
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
judging.
When Kukoo hears Paritosh telling Gaitonde,
रखना है ना तुझे कुकू को, रख, लेकिन शादी भी कर ले किसी अच्छे घर की लड़की के साथ. रख तेरी कुकू को साइड पे छुपा के रख.
what does it feel like for her? Because, you just said she's used to it. But now she's in love with Gaitonde.
Yeah.
So what's going on? Yeah. It's the first time she's breaking, right?
It would be painful for her. It is obvious in that scene also that
Yeah.
it is painful for her. And because this is a reality, this is a new reality. She was probably never, even imagining that this kind of a day will come.
Yeah, that like somebody will say, oh, she can't give you a kid. Like,
Yeah.
why would she even have to have thought of it until
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
Because
So
the thing
exactly.
is that Gaitonde knows, right?
Yeah.
He knows that she's transgender.
Yeah.
So this moment is just about Paritosh trying to
Yeah.
destroy her.
Yeah, exactly. So this moment is more about, in a way, the shattering of that utopia she was imagining and bringing her back to the real world and saying, okay, this you still have to deal with assholes around you and deal with people who are obviously too committed to the conformist society and the ideas and who are not
And
aware
also,
at
I
all.
think who wants, when people are playing with power, they will pull out all stops.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is, right? Here, it's a nasty, negative thing because he knows that is her Achilles heel for a minute.
Yeah.
Or he brings it up.
Yeah, another thing that kind of we were trying to go for here was that all power comes through conformism. So if you want to acquire power, become a conformist because the society unfortunately works that way. While it is slightly counterintuitive because ideally power should come from being unique.
Yeah.
But no, it comes from being like others. And that's why wherever you see the ideologies, whichever are growing in the world, they come through and they keep pushing you into more and more conformist
Homogeneity,
views.
yeah.
Exactly. So that is something which is also being, played here, that this guy, Paritosh, is telling Gaitonde, your aim in life is to gain power, then follow the rules of the conformism for gender.
Yeah.
And don't, whatever.
Otherwise, this becomes
Yeah.
a chink in your armor.
Yeah, exactly. So that is something which, again, thanks for, picking that particular scene because, again, we have rarely talked about this aspect of Sacred Games.
क्या देखेगा
मेरे को देख
क्या देखेगा तू
मैं पूरा देखना चाहता
क्या
हूँ
देख
सब देखना
क्या देखेगा ये देखेगा तू ये देखेगा तू नहीं दे सकती मैं बच्चे नहीं दे सकती तू जा.
After that scene, Gaitonde goes to Kukoo and she's like distraught and she says, I can't give you a child. And, given the situation and the characters and the moment, it's really like an oasis of pure love in this full desert of like moral bankruptcy because let's face it, that's where we are at that moment. And there is a protectiveness to this moment. He doesn't have that with any of the other women in the show, even the one he marries later on.
Yeah.
He feels... I like to use this term good patriarchy. It's contentious, but he feels that for her. He wants to take care of her.
Yeah.
Like, so tell me about building that. Tell me about that love story. Tell me a little bit about it. Just the kind of way they talk to each other.
Yeah, so we wanted to do multiple things here. One was the thing we started with, the metaphor of Bombay, Kukoo as a metaphor for Bombay. So it becomes about that, Gaitonde becoming vulnerable in his love for Bombay, in his love for this representation of Bombay. The city which seemed only macho also has a lot of sensitive shades. This is the first time where he wants to surrender. This is the place, this is the character, this is the representation of the city where he wants to just like cuddle and lie down.
Yeah.
That's all. And that's what they do. And so that was one. Second was to show Kukoo being accepted by someone she loves.
Yeah.
It's a big moment for her. You know, she has, as we talked about, she has built this wall around her and she feels okay in that,
Yeah.
kind of shielded space where she pushes through and she lives and she's living a happy, successful life on her own terms.
Yeah.
And one thing she has stopped doing is craving for full acceptance from someone she loves. So she finds love and she finds acceptance and she feels herself completely in that moment. And that was also something we wanted to show for Kukoo.
Yeah.
So these were the two POVs
It's
we
very
combined.
beautiful, and also you can just feel the fear also. Like you're watching it and some
yeah,
shit's going to go down.
Yeah,
because writers are just awful people.
Yeah, that's what I think.
They
That's
just sit down
something
and
what.
let's kill all your darlings.
Yeah, I wish it was not.
Rubbish.
The whole
You're just pretending. Blood on your hands.
No,
Yeah.
the whole series writing in India. I wish it was not so deeply influenced by the American format.
Yeah.
And that is one of the reasons why Kukoo is killed. Spoiler if you have not seen the show. Too late. Too fucking late. Radhika Apte's character is killed.
Yeah.
There are these American formats
Yeah.
which just have a certain, which have influenced us, which have influenced us as writers, influenced people as viewers who get very impatient if in a thriller or in a crime drama, every 2 episodes a body is not dropping. So that's something which I wish there was more influence of, European or even our own way of storytelling.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
I
we'll
hope,
get there.
in future. But all the American companies.
It's almost like your credibility depends on how
So
easily
they
you can
have
kill somebody
they have
off.
all the OTT channels. Everyone around the world have these
Body count.
rule books. Yeah, they have rule books for writing series which says the hook point has to be very, very, like you have to end it. Every episode has to end on
correct, yeah.
in the first
Like-
10 minutes there has to be 2 new questions thrown at the audience, and one of these questions has to be solved by the end of next episode, and another question has to be solved by the end of the next episode after that.
अच्छा, okay.
So episode 1 में 2 सवाल होने चाहिए जो कि उसमें से एक सेकंड में जवाब आ जाए और एक थर्ड में आ जाए. 2 में भी 2 सवाल होने चाहिए जिसमें एक का जवाब थर्ड में आ जाए, एक का फोर्थ में आ जाए. They have these
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
very complicated
But it's like
flow charts in a way.
But that's
And-
a bit soulless also. If you're going to say it that way,
So no, it is very restrictive, but also in a way probably needed in the initial few years,
Yeah.
because how do you, for example, how do you teach someone to a new language? You use some basic examples, okay, and parallels from your own language. So I think that's what this American habit of teaching the world and treating everyone like कि आपको कुछ नहीं आता है, हम सिखाएंगे. So that is what is happening.
Oh, acha, okay.
And we also being always in awe of America and American cinema, especially cinema and their
they are
storytelling,
they are a
narrative storytelling.
cultural,
They've cracked it
imperial,
almost like a I don't know,
No,
a
they have a
computer
formula.
program.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So वो प्रोग्राम भी फॉलो करना पड़ता है इस वजह से भी वो, otherwise like if I'm allowed a full free hand to rewrite Sacred Games, probably no one will die. Like
Some of them could die.
some of them could die.
I could take a leave
Yeah,
with some
but
of them.
I'm saying no. Probably
Don't kill Kartikar. Don't kill
Kukoo, Kartikar.
Kartikar. I was very angry with you guys.
Yeah, that was very.
I'm not even sure if I
very
texted you. I was
heartbreaking
like,
to even
WTF.
write that episode,
Yeah.
like to say ki, okay.
Kukoos Jadoo. All right. Is it like a superstition? Is it subterfuge required to succeed at all costs? Is it the idea of a woman as a conquest? or, is it that kind of, that kind of insanity that you feel in Bombay? Like, what is it? Like, it's like being mesmerized or like being under a spell. That's what it is.
Yeah. So on a philosophical level, yes, it is that. It is a kind of a spell, or if you are able um, to be in the good books of Kukoo, or if you are able to attract her, then you have understood the city to some extent. That is the
Like
philosophical.
she's the key to the.
If you can, because as I said, every city in India has a, in my head, has
Some mystique.
has a gender energy, something like.
Okay.
So Delhi is very macho.
Yes.
Gurgaon is like a drunk man, with an empty gun, but he doesn't know it's an empty, and we also don't know it's an empty gun. And but he's stumbling.
Gun.
Yeah, he's just stumbling on the road, just waving the gun at everyone and all. So they're like Bombay.
So Bombay is a transgender, is a trans woman.
Yes.
Oh my
Bombay
God, really? It's true. Oh my God.
Bombay is a trans woman. So Kukoo, in a way, is that mystery about Bombay.
Yeah.
And the energy of Bombay.
Would you do anything differently if you were writing the character today?
One, yes, obviously the casting. We will, or at least if, again, it's a hypothetical question, but yeah, definitely spend more time on casting and finding someone from the transgender community to play the role. Second, yes, again, maybe fight with the channel execs to give more space, more, and not kill the character.
Thank you.
Quickly, and because and I think it was eventually also a bad business choice also, in a way, that you're
But
not.
could you imagine a story where Kuku's life ends happily?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She may, there's one scenario where, okay, the love happens, the vulnerability comes, and then, even if there's no Gaitonde, or they have a, falling out kind of a thing, she can still rule her life, and, she can still live her life on her own terms, and maybe become a film star or something.
Okay, so Kukoo multiverse you will write. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. That's cool then. Okay. So the Kubra, no, she brings a certain power to the role.
Yeah.
Full marks to her. There's honor, there's respect, she brings power to it.
I know that she worked a lot, like she workshopped a lot, and she did her own lots of research.
Yeah, it was
and
incredible.
She was fantastic.
Incredible, yeah. So, because when you write powerful characters from marginalized communities or identities, it takes a certain attention to detail. It's also, you have to acknowledge that, you have limited knowledge. Like, you have to acknowledge that I'm ignorant about certain things. And over we realize we can no longer just write about what we know, right? That whole thing, write about what you know. It's like, what do you know? So, do you have a set of rules to do right by a character that you are attempting, that you are not familiar with? Or do you have any sort of playbook or something that you keep in mind, some sort of?
2 or 3 things. One, absolutely do as much research as possible. Meet people from the community, whatever, part of, whatever community that is. 2, run it after you finish writing, or at least a draft. Run it by people from the community. Ask for feedback.
Okay.
Be sensitive to the feedback and not be like, मैंने तो लिख दिया है, ये ऐसा है. So that is the second thing. Third thing, more difficult to implement just as a writer. If you are a director also, or if you are a producer also, you can still, make sure it happens. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. As a writer, you can suggest or you can ask for it, but you don't know. To have people from the community on the shoot.
Yeah. That's true.
To make sure that the representation is correct, and there's no there are no blind spots, because there will be blind
Of
spots
course, yeah,
always.
yeah.
No matter how much research we do, how many, how sensitive we want to be while
Yeah.
writing,
It's going to
or
happen, of
incorporating
course.
feedback, but there would be stuff which may trigger someone.
Yeah.
The way you shoot it, the way you, even if you have done everything right, research is good, you have actually gotten actors from the community to perform, you have taken feedback, and still the way you shoot it, just the camera angle, sometimes just the way, for example, brutality is shown on
Yeah.
screen, it may be insensitive, it may trigger people from the community which you won't understand. For you, it will be just like, we show violence, and we show violence,
Like this, yeah.
cis versus cis violence, we show very like this only. But we don't understand that is not there's no past memory which will be triggered by that. For us, that is cinema, but for a lot of people, especially from underprivileged communities,
Yeah.
they face a lot of violence. A lot of it is psychological,
Yeah.
a lot of it is verbal,
Yeah.
physical,
It's also,
all
yeah,
kinds.
it can be below the radar.
So that abuse, showing it on screen, you have to have, just like you have intimacy coordinators on screen, you have to have people from the community, activists, or
Yeah.
someone who knows the visual language also and knows what image can trigger what kind of a trauma.
When you were writing this thing, when I was watching it again, did you understand, or did you find any special moment where do you feel like you understood Kukoos' pain? Because there is a lot of pain in that character. So can you imagine like living that life? That can you tell me something about like I just want to explain to people via Kukoo the kind of heaviness it is to walk through your world not being
Yeah.
conformist or not.
Yeah.
being,
So I think technically it is impossible for me to understand the lived experience of any other person, even if it is sometimes, let's say, even if it is a cisgender person, the kind of layers our lives have, trauma after trauma after trauma, then 2 weeks of good life, and then trauma, and then going back. So it is very difficult to understand even the pain of someone you have spent your life with. Okay, then to imagine that we can understand the pain of a person from another community, and a community which has been systemically oppressed, banished from public spaces, constantly abused, constantly violent attacks have been happening across India and over centuries. And so for me, it is really impossible. But at the same time, as writers, that's the effort. Or as writers, so theek hai, baat ki baat hai. As just humans who want to connect with the world or who want to understand the world, we do try. I did try. There are a lot of, and the only way you can kind of understand someone's pain, unfortunately, that's how our brains are wired, is through equating that with some trauma you have experienced and kind of finding parallels of some sort. I think that's kind of, I'm defining empathy here in a way. But so for me, while writing the character of Kukoo, that was important, that and for all of us, me, Vasant and Smita, because we all wrote it together. But for us, it was important to not make it a gimmick, not make it just a symbol of something, which was also part of the process, that she's a metaphor for something, but also she's a human, and that human has to has to be seen and heard and understood on her own terms as an individual in the show. And uh, I think it worked that way, that no one is, we are having an entire conversation on Kukoos' character and how it was built. And that was the reaction from across. Like everyone talked about Kukoo, everyone talked about her not just as a device in the show, but as a character who, as you also said, people asked for a spin-off, people asked for a complete story. So that is something which happened, I would like to believe, happened because there was some effort and which kind of succeeded in making her human, and that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you for having this conversation with me and answering all my questions. And, maybe all have the Gaitonde gaze. Thank you, Varun.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Varun Grover, and it was lovely talking to Genesia. So please subscribe to Swaddle to listen to more such fun conversations.